Good morning. Welcome back. Kent Bain with 9 Business Group and Elevate Your Business Spotlight interview. We have Kashan joining us today. Kashan, please introduce yourself. Most importantly, your company name, what you guys do, and what sets you apart from the competition. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Kent. It's a pleasure being here. So I'm Kashan. I'm the founder and CEO of Naburva Business Solutions. We are a Calgary-based management consulting and learning and development service provider firm. And to your question about what sets us apart, first of all, is the fact that we try to set gold standard in everything we do through the quality of our work, right? So this is evident from like the various partnerships we have regionally within Canada as well as globally. For example, in Canada, we partner with CPHR Alberta, CPHR BC and Yukon, CPHR Manitoba, Nova Scotia, Maritime provinces. And globally, we partner with firms like Society for Human Resources Management or American Society for Quality or Council for Six Sigma certifications, right? So these partnerships are all like a testimony to the gold standard I was talking about. And secondly, in part, it relates to that my previous point regarding the gold standard thing as well, that we believe in providing a comprehensive solution to a client whenever we are working on helping them solve a certain problem. So let me expand on that a little bit. So, for example, if we are working on a process improvement mandate, right? So it essentially involves some kind of change. So unless there's a change management component or like a solid mechanism to manage change, unless that mechanism is in place, just addressing the process itself or redesigning the process, it's not going to be of much help to the client, right? So we want to make sure that we address not only the process redesign component, the technical component, but also the we're trying to help them build engagement. If there's no leadership development component within that project, it's not going to be much use. It's not going to be really productive. So once we define the scope, like in our meeting with the client, once we define the scope and develop a project plan, we make sure that we have everything included in the scope that really aims to address the root cause of the problem, not just making the cosmetic change to the process or delivering like a workshop or anything of that sort. If that makes sense.
It does, absolutely. So what you're trying to, if I were to paraphrase, what you're really looking to do is make permanent change, and not just in the workflow, for lack of a better word, but also in understanding the workflow. So the workflow is sticky, that change happens.
Yeah.
We understand why we've made the changes, and that the team and the employees, the team members who are involved in using the new workflow understand it, and it becomes a new habit and is there as a permanent change long term.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What would be a typical, I mean, that sounds heavy and meaty and thick. So what would be a typical client? Like what would be the maybe quote unquote, the smallest type of client you engage with, number of employees sort of thing, where that would be truly beneficial?
Well, on the minimum side, there's no limit in terms of size. I mean, I've worked with companies that are really small, like about 20, 25 people, as well as very large organizations, which are which employ thousands of people, right? So essentially, it's the idea about like how you really define the problem, how you really define the root causes of the problem, and how you can help the client kind of become self-reliant in addressing the problem from the point onward, like after we've done our intervention and we've provided our recommendations and all that. So it's all about making it easy for the client rather than the size.
Fair enough. However, it was more kind of common, a team of 5, right? Much more fluid than a team of 25. When you get to 25 plus employees, there's a lot more consistent workflows. There's just more people doing the same job, for lack of better. So I think it was just more for me to understand that differentiation. In how long have you been doing this? And then kind of part 2 of that question is, what has been the most rewarding or the biggest challenging thing you've done that was a lot of fun to do?
Okay, so the challenge, I mean, there's been a lot of challenges that we've been facing since our inception or since we came into being as a company. Um, there were challenges around our survival, of course, and there were challenges around the because it involves a lot of learning along the way as well, right? Learning for ourselves and learning for our clients too. So the first challenge I would say would be around when we were established. So Naburba came into being at the end of 2019, and I mean, of course, in the hindsight, when you look at it, it was not an ideal time. So we were established ideally as a service provider who would provide management consulting to small businesses, right? So small businesses were the segment in the business world which was most impacted by the pandemic, and I couldn't foresee that coming down the line in a few months. So of course, it meant that we had a lot of things were really slow for us. There were not a lot of clients in the market. Things were kind of stagnant from a financial standpoint. There was no growth, so that was a big challenge, and we kind of in a way it was golden or silver lining. There was a silver lining for us in that it provided me with an opportunity to develop some great professional development programs which are recognized regionally and globally today. For example, we have and by the way, they constitute about half of our business today. We've been recognized as one of like among the top 10 learning and development service providers in Canada in 2023, and we've also received the award of excellence in leadership development. Right, so this is all that we built during that kind of a downtime. So this was a challenge, but it turned into a great opportunity for us. So that is that. And the other piece around the challenges was like determining the right fit, like who would constitute the right client for us. Um, because initially, due to the lack of experience, or for lack of a better word, we sometimes there were occasions we had to learn the hard way as to once how to determine the right fit. Okay, so the ideal client, like the definition of the ideal client, became somewhat different than it was before when we started off. Now we work with the clients or potential clients when we have an introductory or discovery meeting with them. We make sure that there's a genuine desire to change things and make a difference in their organization. Because sometimes, you know, um, there could be other reasons why businesses could engage consultants or you know uh, external help or coaches or stuff. Could be reasons due to the organization being ridden with dirty politics, and they need to find someone to come in. So that's what I'm saying, right? So we kind of established a more robust system of making sure that we're working with the right kind of people. We want to partner with them in their success, right? That's essentially the goal, rather than uh, engaging in ourselves in something or assignments that are not really as productive as we would want them to be.
Got it. Okay, so can you give us an example of maybe the most fun project you've worked on, or a client that was kind of invigorating and fun that was very rewarding for you? And without
Well,
naming names, can you describe it to us and what you enjoyed so much about it?
oh, absolutely. So uh, this relates to my point that I was describing earlier about providing the full spectrum solution. So we got into the project. We signed off on that, and we you know initiated our work in the project. And during the project, it turned out that the intervention would involve a lot of support from the leadership within the organization if the change or if the intervention was to make an impact, right? So we made some changes in the scope of the project, of course, with an understanding with the client. Um, but we introduced a leadership development component into the program, um, so that we could help the leadership sustain that change, sustain that intervention, the improvement that we were trying to help bring about. Well, like you said earlier, we wanted to stick around rather than just be a temporary thing, right, and not be very productive for the client. And that was the first time we did that, and we had a lot of positive feedback from the client. And afterwards, we kind of made that a standard, that anything we did, we would you know not we would analyze it thoroughly in terms of what are the different dynamics within the process or within the system that we needed to touch in order for the intervention to be really effective. So that was the starting point of what, like, how our we made our processes really comprehensive. That was really enjoyable for us as well as for the client.
Thank you. Great. Um, when you look back over the 5 years now being in business, what is the greatest lesson you've learned? What is that one thing you'd go back and tell younger Kashan self? Do this sooner, learn it faster, do it now.
Yeah. So initially, I probably made the same mistake to a certain degree, not a lot, to a certain degree that, and I'm sure you must have met a lot of business owners who believe in the fact that they can do everything, right? So I understand that as a small business owner, you need to wear multiple hats at a time. But I tried to learn pretty early, during my business journey, that I shouldn't wear a hat that doesn't fit me, right? So I don't do anything that I'm not really good at. For example, I am like we internally we don't have a very solid expertise in marketing or sales, right? So in order to get around that, we do some things like, for example, right now we're in the process of building partnerships with organizations like University of Calgary to get expert help rather than fumbling with it ourselves, or outsourcing parts of the marketing function to the people who know how to do it best, instead of just learning it by trial and error and losing a lot of time and money and energy along the way.
So you're saying the thing that you would do sooner or recommend is understand as an entrepreneur what we're good at, get very clear as to what we're not very good at or where the weaknesses are, and then either onboard and or outsource where required the things we're not good at to get faster momentum.
Yeah, exactly. And I see this a lot of, especially in the young entrepreneurs, that they believe that they should be doing everything by themselves, right? So with the absence of that clear idea of their strengths and weaknesses, and I mean this is a pretty common, like a cliche analysis, like the SWOT analysis, but there are not a lot of entrepreneurs who actually do that or do that objectively, for that matter. So unless you're really aware of your weaknesses and where you need improvement, and if you just try to barge into that race without that clear understanding, there's a good chance that you will not succeed, or not succeed to the degree that you actually envision or want to, right? So yeah, that would be my take on that. That you just have a clear idea on your strengths as well as weaknesses, and just try to align whatever you're doing with your strengths, and anything
Got
that
it.
kind of, yeah.
No, for sure. I think there's a lot of value in that because so many entrepreneurs, to your point, try to do everything, try to do too much, and that does two things. One, they end up doing things they're not very good at, so they muck it up. But then two, the things they are good at, they don't do so well because of the distraction. So it really hampers them on a multiple fronts. So looking at the space of businesses and industry trends, 25 employees to say 125 employees, what are the top 3 to 5 challenges you see facing the larger or the medium-sized enterprises in the next 3 to 5 years?
So for the small and medium businesses, especially, they what I've seen pretty often is that they lack a structure in their processes. Okay, things are often done through like there's not there's not enough documentation to build a standard, right? The processes are more passed on to the from one generation of employees, if you will, to the next generation or next batch, just like what you call a tribal knowledge, instead of having a standard set or a governance structure being in place. So the lack of the structure and the processes or governance, it contributes to a lot of uncertainty or fuzziness around where they want to head as an organization. What is their long-term direction? So as long as like if there's not a solid alignment in that direction, the efforts are not really channeled on towards that particular goal. They're pretty random, right? Um, Let me explain that by probably an example. So let's say if you talk about setting the standards, right? Doing everything according to the book or according to your manual, etc. Seems like a good thing, right? But what if the organization you're working in, the long-term direction or the vision or the strategy, it's about being innovative. So right, so an approach that seems workable and seems pretty good in an isolated sense does not work in that particular scenario, because that particular situation with the particular vision or strategy, it calls for thinking outside of the box, not conforming to the standards. So I believe that there needs to be a more robust structure, more robust policy framework for small and medium businesses, so that it creates alignment for all their team members in terms of where they're headed as an organization.
How about, thank you. How about looking forward 3 to 5 years and kind of looking at the rate of change? We have all kinds of technology coming at us. What do you see coming at medium-sized entrepreneurs that not just lack of systems of process, but more industrial, more external environmental changes coming at us that these entrepreneurs should be aware of in the next 3 to 5 years?
There's a lot of automation. There's a lot of digitization. So the influx of technology into the business processes. It's really something that it shouldn't be any surprise to anybody. But surprisingly, many people have hard time understanding that or adjusting to that. I have seen cases in small as well as medium and large sizes businesses as well, that these changes, which are seemingly very evident, people seem really shocked when these changes are, they find their way into their organization where they're working in, right? So I have worked on projects where such automation projects or technological changes have not been really well accepted very well by the teams, by the folks who were so used to doing things their own old way or the manual way. So there needs to be a lot of readiness for change, and there needs to be a lot of readiness for making sure that the teams are willing to reskill themselves based on what is coming, based on what the new processes will look like.
I think that's a key word, is reskill themselves. I even I got a 16-year-old at home, and we're listening to podcasts about automation and learning about just how much more technology and advanced it can become and is becoming. So when he's 25 or 30, his world is going to be a lot different. When I went into business in 2005, 2007, we could write a 5 or 10 business plan, and we kind of had a rough idea what the landscape would look like in 5, maybe even 10 years. I think we'd be hard pressed to say that any of us knows what our business landscape is going to look like in 10 years, maybe 5. And we have a shot at looking at it in 3 years and kind of going, we think it might look like this, but here's all the stuff on the periphery kind of coming at us. And it's just a matter of how fast does it come at us? What impact is it going to have? Ultimately, I think we need human beings to be in charge. We need human beings to have the soft skills. We are human beings, so I don't think automation will replace all of us. The
Yeah.
question is, what role does automation play in the changes in the coming years, and what impact is it going to have? Back to you. You run a small team. If there was a pirate, a thief in your business, what would they be stealing from you?
Um, I think I got a little bit of your question, but I missed the later half. Would you mind repeating that if
Yeah, no
that's
problem.
okay?
So if there was a thief or a pirate in your business, what would they be stealing from you?
Well, I would say the ability to do a thorough self-analysis and self-inspection, introspection, to analyze where we stand currently, what we need to do to create value for our clients, what, and more importantly, what our weaknesses are, so that we could work on them. So the ability to do that analysis is something that would be, I would say, really that soft asset, if you will, for us. Because if this ability to do that brutal, honest, and realistic self analysis was not there, we probably wouldn't have been able to survive the pandemic, even, right? So, and of course, this leads to the drive to make any changes to our strategy, to our approach, and to our like the way we operate.
I got a fun question for you. It's a little bit different than one we sent you in advance, but I think we can have some fun with it. In all the clients you've worked with, how many different definitions of success have you seen? When you're working with these goals and organizations, what different types of way do they define success for their teams and their entrepreneurs and their businesses?
So, in my experience, the definition of success has been varying on a spectrum. So some people, well, most of the people really define it with one clear, objective, which is oftentimes financial, or relates just to return on investment. If I'm working on a cultural mandate, again, it more relates to engagement metrics, but more or less, it's one single definition or one single measure. To me, success is something that is multifaceted. It definitely, financial indicator is important. Don't get me wrong, but they're not the only indicator of success, right? To me, like success should be defined by, of course, the financial metrics, but in the level of engagement, in the trajectory for growth, in the ability to adapt and change, in the ability to create that culture of learning and engagement within the organization. So, or externally to build wonderful partnerships with clients and other collaborators within the external environment. So these are different facets on which the success is measured based on what I see it as. Um, but oftentimes I see the definitions are pretty narrow, but I believe that they should be more broad, and it should include more in terms of what you measure the success on, as opposed to just one metric.
I agree. No, I love it. I think the word that I'm going to take away from that is that spectrum, right? I've found it over my years that I think early on as entrepreneurs, it almost fits this weird, almost a symmetry of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where we kind of first have to pay our bills. We got to, make the rent, make the car payment, make the mortgage, get the kids to school. And as we become more stable with our revenue, then there's sort of the next one is, okay, what do we do with profit? Then we have to have enough profit to kind of maybe reinvest in the business, and we end up with growth. I think once what I've found with my entrepreneurs is once they get kind of into that stability range or that stable range, it allows that freedom to start thinking about kind of like external relationships, reputation, legacy, team engagement. And I think it is so hard for many entrepreneurs at 500,000 or even 1.1 million, 1.5 million, where they're still struggling to keep the team and pay the bills, to get that personal insight to kind of go, what is that next thing? But I think it's critical. It is for me, because once we start working past our own personal identity into the community and the team, there's that extra driving force that really then starts to drive entrepreneurs as they go looking inward to looking outward to kind of going, how do I support my team? What legacy do I want? How do I teach? How to become a business owner? And I think it makes for much better entrepreneurship as well. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, the last most important question, if you had one client who's listening right now that you want them to phone you because you want to work with them, who are they? Name them by name if you want. And most importantly, where can they find you, get a hold of you?
Right. So in terms of who that client would be, I mean, I think I touched about it earlier, but I would, expand on that a little bit more if that helps. We are always more than happy to work with clients who have a true, genuine desire to make a change, and they need help, and any external help from someone like us to help them, you know, bring that change into effect. But that genuine desire needs to be there, and that collaborate. It's also among one of our organization values: collaboration and empowerment. So we would love to work with such clients who with that genuine desire are happy or willing to collaborate with us, and we jointly work hand in hand towards that improvement that we're trying to bring about in that client's organization, or address a problem or whatever. um, the client organization size doesn't really matter. We were not, because we were essentially, when we established as an SME management consultant, but many of our clients along the way have been larger organizations as well. So we're happy to work with any size organization, but it has to be a genuine desire to make a change, and we will love to partner with them to make that change. In terms of how they can get hold of us, if there's any general inquiries about our work, about the any details about the project itself, we can be reached at info@naberva.com. Or if there's any questions that they want me to personally answer, I'm always more than happy to connect on LinkedIn, or they can write to me personally at a.kashan@naberva.com, or I can be reached at 403-383-2073. If anybody wants to give me a call, I'll be more than happy to chat.
Perfect. That's what we want. Good old fashioned, pick up the phone, call somebody, stop the Googling, stop the searching, get to the point, ask some questions. Thank you very much. Love the insight, Kashan. Really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to hearing the rest of your story in the months and weeks and years to come.
Thank you so much, Kent. It was really a pleasure being here.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you.